So with the Packers' third-round pick, they shock me once again and draft another receiver. I did not expect them coming to this draft to use two of their first three picks on wide receiver. I just didn't think wide receiver was the biggest need. As I've said, I do think defensive line is the biggest need, so I'm pretty shocked at this point. They haven't drafted an edge rusher. They haven't drafted an interior defensive lineman, and instead they have drafted another receiver, and this is TCU wide receiver Savion Williams, 6'4", 222 pounds. He's 23 years old, and he's a very intriguing prospect just because of the different ways you can utilize him. And just looking at some different information, some people compare him to Deebo Samuel. Not necessarily that level of player, but just sort of the type of player where he has that ability to line up in the backfield, get a lot of carries. And here's the excerpt from Dane Brugler in his draft guide, The Beast. Here's what he says about Williams here. A 3-year starter at TCU, Williams transitioned to a hybrid receiver role, frog package, as a super senior and offensive coordinator, Kendall Briles' up-tempo spread attack. He split his 2024 snaps between wide receiver, exclusively to the left of the formation, and the backfield, 84 snaps, as either a running back or wildcat quarterback. With just 23 targets of more than 10 yards, resulting in 9 catches, he was basically an extension of the run game on screens and slants. He also averaged 8 carries per game over the final 6 contests of 2024. A big, physically imposing athlete, Williams has some freaky traits that will tease playmaking flashes. Very fitting that he grew up idolizing Calvin Johnson. He can play above the rim and has a knack for pulling in contested catches, but he needs to show better confidence in his hands and improve the details of his routes. Overall, TCU leaned into Williams' unique athletic profile in 2024, and the manufactured touches showcased his ability to create with the ball. However, the move came out of necessity because of Williams' inconsistencies as a traditional receiver. He projects as more of a joker weapon and needs a creative play caller who can utilize him in different ways, similar to Cordarrelle Patterson. So he's not your typical wide receiver, but I think already seeing the Packers drafting Matthew Golden in round 1, already having Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, of course, injured. I bet you Matt LaFleur is pretty excited about what he can do here with Williams just when it comes to utilizing him in tons of different ways, just bringing him in for screens, line him up in the backfield, and then, maybe he can develop into a better receiver. And so this is a pretty interesting pick, a pretty exciting pick. I think he ran a 4.4840, so at his size, pretty fast, not in the 4.3s at all, but 4.48. And so I'm just shocked because honestly, the second they announced this pick, I was just very surprised to see another receiver drafted because I really did not see this coming. I thought, maybe in the first 3 rounds they drafted a receiver, but a receiver in round 1 and a receiver in round 3, I did not see that coming. And my initial thought is, wow, the Packers must, really think they need to revamp the wide receiver room. Christian Watson's going to be a free agent after 2025. Romeo Doubs is going to be a free agent after 2025. And it does make me wonder a little bit. We already know Christian Watson has the ACL injury. And so I think now with both Golden drafted, with Williams now drafted here, Savion Williams, I just find it hard to believe that the Packers would pay both Watson and Doubs. I already found that hard to believe with them drafting Golden, and so I think that one of them is definitely going to be out the door, but I think both of them have a lot to prove in 2025, especially now with the Packers coming in, drafting 2 guys in the first 3 rounds. That definitely will give them a lot of motivation to come in and really show that they, belong and deserve contracts here in Green Bay. And the Packers, all 3 of these picks, helping out Jordan Love. And so the one thing I am not concerned about, but is interesting, I guess you could say, is that no defensive players drafted in the first 3 rounds. I think defensive line-wise, I'm slightly concerned just when it comes to the depth of the interior with TJ Slayton gone. The Packers were really good against the run last year. They were the 6th best defense in the NFL, but to not have Any defensive lineman drafted the first 3 rounds, somewhat concerning, but honestly, these 2 receiver picks are pretty exciting. So that's pretty much the information there on Williams. I'll be out with more draft content. I'll probably put out a grade video tonight in the first 3 rounds, just my initial thoughts. So make sure you have the notifications turned on so you don't miss any Packers content, and I'll see you guys next time.